báyìí mo fẹ́ pè Dr. Sina Fagbenro-Byron. Ẹ bá mi fún látẹ́wọ́.
Thank you very much. The Director General, Dawn Commission. You've stepped into large shoes, but you've stepped in very well. Staff of Dawn Commission, who I call my colleagues, distinguished members of the press, I will have to take a slightly different perspective. We want to go, we have had discussions on restructuring. It is necessary for nations to dig deep into their history for them to move forward. It is necessary for nations to understand the context in which they find themselves. And the compare made a statement, and which I am going to reiterate in this speech. By 1963, Southwest Region and indeed Yoruba Land, we had achieved most of what we know today as the Millennium Development Goals. Most of the things we are fighting for today, we had it in 63. How come? Almost 50 years after. That means there has been a reversal. Momo, titi wa, ile wa, omo po si nkan che, bebe nlo, ṣùgbọ́n in terms of real development, àti bá ṣe wà, there has been a reversal. The world is facing an era, and let me tell you something. Tá bá ń ronú Yorùbá, bá ṣe ń ronú Nigeria, because nǹkan tó gbé wa bí ni wípé láàrin Nigeria báwo ni Yorùbá ṣe máa jókòó, tàdé máa jókòó dáadáa pẹ̀lú àlàáfíà. Nigeria ronú bóun ṣe máa jókòó láàrin West Africa. West Africa ronú bóun ṣe máa jókòó láàrin ìgbésẹ̀ gbogbo ayé. So the world is facing another era of global fragility, the likes of which world wars are made of. We are tottering on the brink of fragility. Nigeria particularly, however, has been nursing an epidemic of poverty, ignorance, corruption, organized crime. Government institutions are consciously structured to meet the interests of elite. That is the structure we are. That is the structure we've inherited. But that is not certainly the structure that we can carry into the future. The current political and constitutional structure of Nigeria is enabled by what you and I know as the 1999 Constitution. But if we go into history, how did we get here? How did we get where? The history and institutional character of the Yoruba people and our culture and philosophy shows that we are destined as a group, as a people, to lead in the emancipation of the black man, to ensure his dignified development. And this is why, in the course of building Nigeria, a Yoruba man like yourself triggered nationalism in the person of Herbert Macaulay, who was the grandson of Samuel Ajayi Crowther, another excellent Yoruba man who wrote the Yoruba Bible. Leveraging on this spirit of nationalism, torí kò sí ibi tó tiẹ̀ kó Yorùbá ṣẹ́rú sí abroad, tẹ́ bá lọ àwọn wo ló kọ́kọ́ jà òmìnira bẹ́ẹ̀? Is it Jamaica? Is it Cuba? Anywhere tó bá tẹ́ wọ́n ti kó ọmọ Yorùbá sí, the first thing tó máa ṣe tó máa kọ́kọ́ débẹ̀ wọ́n máa kọ́kọ́ kọ̀yà. And that is the nature of the Yorubas. But how did we enter Nigeria, and how did we enter the agreement we call the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Our forefathers and our leaders, along with other leaders in the northern part of Nigeria and the eastern part of Nigeria, entered into our agreement in the United Kingdom in a conference called the Lancaster Conference, May 23 to June 26, 1957. That was the first session. But it was concluded months later between September 29th and October 27th in 1958. Who were the delegates from the Western region then? Number 1, Chief Obafemi Awolowo. 2, S.L. Akitola. 3, L.J. Dosumu. Number 4, you had E.O. Ejo. Number 5 was S.O. Igodaro. Number 6 was S.G. Ikoku. Number 7 was A.O. Lawson. Number 8 was F.R.A. Williams. And number 9 was Rosiji. They went with advisors. And who are these advisors? Chief S.J. Amakri. Chief R. Edukuho. There was J.U. Ekong. There was Remi Fanikayode. And there was J.S. Olawanye. These people did not just go on their own. They had the mandate of the Yoruba people to go into that Lancaster conference. At least, just to mention the premise, they went with the mandate of their traditional rulers, the Oni of Ife, the Alaafin of Oyo, the Oba of Benin. So it was a total agreement to go into the Lancaster conference and come out with the kind of constitution called a federal constitution, which says that Yorubas did not agree to enter into an agreement with Nigeria, but for the fact that it was agreed that it would be a federal structure. And if we look at the Western delegates that went for that conference, actually formed the original and the first set of self-government that we enjoyed in the West. And between 1952-59, we had built a significant structure of governance for the Yoruba people and for the Western region of Nigeria. And so that's why we said that by 1963, the Western region had achieved a number of development goals. We had scored certain firsts, including the new technology of television. We were first in Africa to do that. And so, the social contract that our leaders had with the people was that of progress. And at that time, we were on the same wavelength, Nigeria with Malaysia, with Singapore. Nǹkan tó ń sọ ní pé bí àwọn ará bí yìí ṣe ń lọ o, àwọn ìlú kan wà, àwọn Singapore, Malaysia, Nigeria, tó bá ń lọ báyìí lọ ṣe máa dì in 10 years, 20, 30 years. Ìgbà yẹn dẹ̀rẹ̀ òkè là ń lọ nígbà yẹn. But something happened. Ó dẹ̀ yẹ ká mọ ibi tá a ti ń kọsẹ̀. If we come here and discuss restructuring and what we need to do in the future, and we cannot consider what we have done in the past, then there is a problem. Then we are not here to discuss. Then we are not here to look for solutions. But there are two questions I would like to ask. Put it in your mind. One of them I will probably, of us wonder, and we've asked ourselves, why did Sardauna stay, despite the fact, why did he stay in the north as premier and did not come to Lagos to become prime minister when his party had won majority of the votes? Many people say because he was more comfortable in Kaduna. Some people say because Kogoyimbo. Please go and listen to any tape of Sardauna of Sokoto. Your biggest professors cannot speak English like the man could speak. I have a new theory of why the man stayed. The man saw what Awolowo did in the southwest and knew that the work he had to do was in the north, in the western region, and knew he had to stay. So ironically and unbeknownst to us, because if you look at everything progressive that was happening in the west, the east was pursuing, the north was pursuing, and it was in that competitive spirit that Nigeria was moving forward. Thank you. In 1959, parliamentary elections we held in Nigeria, 12 December 1959. The result was victory for NPC. There was the Northern People's Congress. But in that, it was a curious election. In that election, the NPC won 1,922,179 votes. But they won 34 seats out of the 312 seats. Whereas the Action Group, which was the party of the Western region, won 1.992 million votes to win 72 seats. The question I asked, I was barely I was 6 months old then, so no more. But I'm still going to sit with some elders to ask, what kind of formula and what kind of mathematical ridiculousness did the person who won the majority votes get the minority number of seats? It might have been some kind of contraption, but that is an issue. Suffice it to say that after that election, with a prior choice made by Awolowo to relinquish regional premiership and his seat in the Western House for a seat in the House of Representatives with the objective of becoming Prime Minister. Unfortunately, that didn't work. And that entire scenario between the West and the Federal and that whole thing brought up two situations, challenges that human beings will always face. And those two situations were: one, succession management. Succession management. Wọ́n ní ìgbà kan lọ, ìgbà kan bọ̀, ọjọ́ gorí ọjọ́ ń lọ, kò sẹ́ni tó ń wà bẹ́ẹ̀ forever. Ọba kan lẹ́yìn, ọba kan lọ́la. So a principle in governance and a principle in life is that there must always be succession. And people who want to progress and go into future must factor that into their planning, into their governance, into the way they manage themselves at all levels. The second issue that we were made to face was dispute resolution. So you will always have dispute where you have human beings. And another form of moving forward as a nation, as a people, is to master dispute resolution. And this is not unique to Yoruba or Nigeria alone. Where African countries have always failed is in their inability to manage succession and their inability to manage youth. And in those two instances, ladies and gentlemen, we failed. We did what? We failed. Because quite frankly, the operation where tie o ba si military ò ní wọlé. Alangba lo ogiri lo lanu talangba wọlé. And it is so opportune. Ibadan has always been the capital of Nigerian politics. Forget it. It is the center of gravity for Nigerian politics. Go into the history of every political institution, every political move or counter move, whether military or not, including military particularly, because there's no coup that has not been planned in GOC here. So therefore, lesson one, no matter what geopolitical and constitutional structure Yoruba people find themselves, they must learn to master the art and science of: one, internal succession management; two, internal crisis management. In preparing it to restructure Nigeria, and our involvement is therefore, we must learn from the master of restructuring, the master of governance that every Yoruba can tap into. And who is that? That is Odudua, the father of you, the father of me, the father of all of us that have brought us here. And if you go to Banji Akitoye's book, he explains exactly what I mean, and therefore I quote it. He said, on a whole, however, Oduduwa's reign was long, peaceful, and his methods and style of leadership were major contributors to that. In accordance with the agreements reached to end hostilities, Oduduwa made sincere efforts to create a leadership that wielded all segments to the new society. In short, Oduduwa's method was called dignified inclusion. Kì í ṣe bí eré ní àbí kì í ṣe ti ẹ̀gàn ní Yorùbá fi sọ pé kọ́mọdé gbọ́n kágbàgbọ́n la fi dálẹ̀ ẹ̀fẹ̀. Ibi tí ọmọdé ò lè tó bàbá ń débẹ̀. Ibi tí bàbá ò dẹ̀ lè wọ̀ ọmọdé ń débẹ̀. Wọ́n ní kóbìnrin pa ejò, kọkùnrin pa ejò, àní kíkẹ́ ejò ti kú. The principle means that until we set up an inclusive governance system amongst ourselves, we are going nowhere. Thank you. After Oduduwa, this policy became a standard match, a benchmark to know which king was successful and which king was not. And what happened was that kings and leaders anyone who wanted trouble for himself will either lose touch or lose the essence of that principle of dignified inclusion. Yes. But along the line in the 18th century, that happened to us. So, in 1963, 1963 wait here. This is what's called 100 years of Yoruba War. 100 years Yoruba War. And we know it ended, but for the intervention of the British and some of the Yoruba leaders at that time, people like Reverend Samuel Johnson, that brokered that peace. We must learn from that. Most of us have seen now what Yoruba Koya, the new group, is doing. We are putting sports. This is Yoruba land. This is Yoruba land. This is Yoruba land. This is Yoruba. You better support it. If you don't claim Yoruba land, they will tell you it is no man's land. It is either you choose whether you have Yoruba land or you have no man's land. Parasites operate where people do not claim their lands. And our interest has to be driven by the protection of Yoruba lands, Yoruba lives, and Yoruba livelihoods, without prejudice to other Nigerians too. So it will be good for us to have in the East people who are there to say this is Igbo land. When you don't claim a land, the land becomes no man's land. Having said that, the issue now, the controversy appears on the question of restructuring Nigeria or not. Whether would you do it now before elections or after. The truth of the matter is that elections themselves are a conflict and dispute resolution mechanism. And you can't, and in any case, the right to vote and be voted for is a mental right. So I am not sure whether it will be strategic nor practical to want to give some people a right by depriving some. So what I will say and suggest is that as we put energies on that, we should also ensure that groups like that should interrogate and focus who wants to compete and contest for positions in Yoruba land, whether they understand the situation, the principles, and our policies. What do we expect from a restructured Nigeria? And I have to abridge because I know there are other people who have to speak. Nigeria has to revert to the legislative exclusive balance, just like my sister before me had said. And what I'm going to put down, the points I'm putting down here, the points I'm going to put down here are things that have been teased from the different groups that we all belong to. Whether it is ARG, whether it is TLYLPA, whether it is Egbe, I have just synthesized what most of us have said. We have to go to take a look at the schedule of the 1963 Constitution in terms of the balance between the executive legislative list. Contiguous states, ethnic nationalities, or settlements shall be at liberty through a plebiscite to elect a part or the whole to states that are contiguous to it. Such contiguous states can elect to associate as geopolitical zones for the purpose of good government and the administration of provision of common interstate social economic infrastructural requirements. The states within each region, shall determine the responsibility and the powers of the region, including land tenure, residual powers. Powers to create states shall be the exclusive powers of the regions. Powers to create local governments shall be exclusive rights of the states. States shall be entitled to manage all resources found within their borders. The most prevalent sharing formula can be worked out. But in transiting, and I think a few people, including Governor Mimoko, had once mentioned this, we should have a moratorium period whereby the current state, and this moratorium period does not mean that we cannot do our restructuring, but it may be difficult to just fracture. That moratorium period is simply to do what? To help other states and help the states engage with their mineral resources, the independence of the control of their resources. State religion may be improved depending on the region. Things like VATs on alcohol, but most importantly, the federal government must be guided at the principle of what you call federal forbearance. There is no federation that is not guided by what you call federal forbearance. It has two principles. Federal actions should be limited to situations in which constitutional authority for action is clear and certain. Federal actions should be limited to problems that are truly national in scope. Federal actions should be sensitive and have faith that in each state's own ability to bring a unique blend of resources and approaches to common problems. This is just the wrong sort, and I'm sure others would say other things. But the truth of the matter, and if no message is gotten from this, is that one, internally we must agree. We propose that we have regional conferences before national conferences, but they did not take our recommendations then. But if we don't internally within ourselves agree on certain principles and what we want to look at, including the fact that states must have their constitutions, then we go nowhere. In conclusion, I will have to talk a bit about the real reason why we are here. The person that we came to honor. When Dipo, along with others, put together the Dawn Commission supported by Southwest governors, this was the first step at restructuring through regional integration. Since then until his most untimely demise, several other regions have started to understudy the template set out by Dipo. Amongst these two, the international community, a new interest was taken in the way they do development in Nigeria, simply because of what they saw in Dawn. And they looked and said that, for a fact, regional discrimination that can come. DFID, where I retired from 3 years ago, were one of the first people to acknowledge this and to support the Dawn Commission with finances and technical support. Dipo was a thoroughbred Omoluabi, a diligent worker, a courageous visionary, and a relentless promoter of one block, a Southwest region where every Yoruba person and those who wish us well will live in peace and prosperity. It is because of him today that we should fly this flag. I was quite older than Dipo, but he has now joined the Saints Triumphant as a star in the firmament and a child in the bosom of the Almighty God. As for me, when I myself, in deep contemplation, and I consider the phrase in the national anthem, the labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain, I cannot but think of FAMAKINWA as one of those heroes. Thank you very much. Sorry for taking so much time.
Thank you very much. Can we please give him another round of applause? I see how very passionate he is about this subject. Gbogbo ala rí pé gbogbo ara ni Ọ̀gbẹ́ni Sina Fagbenro-Byron fi sọ̀rọ̀. Àkókò ni ò sí àbáníká filẹ̀ kó máa lọ.